Hi, I'm Arden Kaywin, and today's episode of the Pro Singer Success Collective is all about how to perform with greater impact. Stay tuned. There are ways to stand out from the competition. There are ways to perform with the kind of impact that's going to get noticed each time. And so that's what I want to talk about today, is this idea of how we perform with impact. To me, the thing that separates the singers who succeed at a high level and the ones who don't, the ones who just always seem to work, the ones who always get the gig, who always, pack a venue, sell out their shows, don't, have millions of people on social media. They seem so sought after. And to me, it has nothing to do with, becoming an insta-celebrity, like selling yourself out on social media. It has nothing to do with whether you went to a prestigious conservatory, if you went to Juilliard, or if you went to Berkeley School of Music, right? It's very simple. And the truth is that most vocal coaches and traditional teachers ignore this thing that I want to talk about today. Because the thing is, it's not about talent. At this level, if you're really out there making a go at this as a professional singer, this is not about talent. You all have talent at this level, So what separates the men from the boys, right? What separates the good singers from the superstars? And so there's a quote that I love by Wayne Dyer, who some of you may know who he is. If you don't, go look him up. And this is what he says. When you change the way you look at something, the thing you look at changes. I'll say it again. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So today, what we're really talking about is giving you a new perspective on performing, a new way to look at performing that's going to help you do that perform with much more impact. So whether it be auditions or in gigs or while recording, right? And this applies to all of it. And it's all about how you view your job as a performer and what your underlying motives really are. Because at this level, it's all about energy. You've all got talent, like I was saying before. You've all got talent. At this level, it is not about the talent. What separates the good singers from the superstars is how you use your energy. So what do I mean by that? What do I mean by that? Think about it. Your audience responds to your energy, not just your singing, okay? Like singing at its core is making sound, and sound is just a form of energy, right? Like light, like heat, right? Sound is a form of energy. And so your audience responds to your energy in the form of sound. And it's not just the sound, it's the energy behind the sound. And the other thing is that the audience it's not the only thing that's responding to your energy. The audience is not the only thing that does. Your voice is also responding to your energy as well. Because the way you use your energy affects your voice. Because your voice is a part of your body, a part of this instrument that this energy is created in and traveling through. So this energy is not just having an effect on your listeners, it's having an effect on the very sound that you're able to create and make as well. And so I want to explain how this all works, okay? The energy that the majority of singers like you, up-and-coming singers who are doing the hustle, trying to make it, the energy that I see that most of you tend to have when you perform, regardless of if it's an audition or a gig or even a recording, it usually comes from one underlying subconscious need, subconscious motive. And that's the need to prove, the need to show you're good, the need to prove you've got talent, the need to prove that you're good enough, right? And the way most of us respond to that underlying need to prove something is in either one of two ways, okay? So the first way is a very outwardly focused energy. So what that means is it's an energy that's like this. It's, I don't know, to me it's a gesture. It's this, right? And we've all seen singers like this. If you've watched shows like American Idol or The Voice, the competition shows, right? They're all trying so hard to, and the audience can just smell it. Like they're just trying too hard, and the audience can feel that a mile away. And it's uncomfortable to watch because it's like, watch me, look at me, love me, choose me. And it's all this like proving, trying. And when I talk to my singers, I say, it's like that person who like wants to date you and like won't leave you alone and like keeps texting you and calling you, like, date me, come on, like, oh, and you're just like, stop, right? And we're not interested in dating those people because they're just trying way too hard. We're interested, in the dude over there or the girl over there who's just like owning their stuff and being awesome and just being themselves, not trying so hard, right? And so a lot of singers who are up and coming, and there's just so much trying to prove, and it's this outward focused energy, and you see it on those competition shows all the time. And it doesn't mean that the person doesn't have a good voice. They may very well have a really good voice, but you're just like, oh God, stop. Like you're just trying way too hard. It's uncomfortable for the audience to watch. And the other thing that it does a lot is that it sabotages their technique because it makes them push. They push because they've got something to prove. And gosh darn it, they're going to give it to you, right? They're going to prove how good their voice is, right? So they just overdo and they force and they push and they blow everything out, and it ends up not being their best sound. Not to mention that the audience feels like accosted by their energy. And it's like, if you want to, you just want to tell them to like, oh my God, chill out, stop trying so hard. Like if you would just stop trying so hard, like you'd actually be good. Okay. So that's the first way that this tends to manifest, this need to prove just in this outwardly focused energy that's just trying way too hard. Or the second way that we often respond to this need to prove is actually by doing the opposite and by pulling back our energy, by contracting, by receding, by shrinking. And it sounds counterintuitive that like if you need to prove them, why would you do that, right? But here's what happens. We've finally got this shot, right? To prove how good we are, whether it's an audition or in a show or something like that, right? We finally have this shot to show the world what we can do. By the way, what we've done a million times on our own, practicing by ourselves. But once someone's listening, once it counts, the pressure to prove how good we are is so overwhelming that it becomes too much and we shrink away from it, or worse, it paralyzes us in the moment. And so what happens is then we back away from the technique. We stop trusting our body. We stop trusting what we know. We recede from it, and then nothing hooks in, and the performance suffers. And oftentimes then we hear that it's not going so great, or we feel that it's not going so great. And then that makes us shrink away and back away even more because we don't like what we're hearing and what we're seeing and what we're experiencing. And guess what? The audience feels a wall go up. When you shrink back into yourself, that wall, that self-protective thing happens, and the audience feels it. They feel it. You've probably watched performances when this happens, and you can just see that they're just like not there. Like there's no connection. They're like a deer in headlights, right? They're singing, but what they're singing and the energy they're broadcasting is don't look at me, right? Like they've gone into the bunker, okay? So this need to prove, it affects our energy in either of these two ways that sabotages our sound and sabotages our ability to connect with an audience. And without those things, those are the two things, without those two essential things in place, there's no way that the performance is going to make the kind of impact that you want. And without that ability to make an impact, your career is not going to move forward. You're not going to stand out from the competition, and you're not going to get the success that you want and that you're capable of otherwise. So what do we do? What do we do about this? So let's go back to the quote that I mentioned to you at the beginning, the Wayne Dyer quote, which is when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So what if you had nothing to prove when you perform? What if all your talent and all your gifts already exist inside you, fully formed, and your job is just to get out of the way and let that out, right? When you're in proving mode, you make it your responsibility to do it, right? But what if your job is the exact opposite? What if when you're singing for others, when there's an audience, your job is just to trust yourself and own this space, right? Like nothing. I really want you guys to notice that nothing to do with the people that is listening. This has nothing to do with them, okay? Like really notice that. This has nothing to do with the people who are listening and nothing to do with making something happen. It has nothing to do with managing how they see you, what they think of you, how they view you. And instead, it has everything to do with trusting yourself and letting go and letting that be enough. Like, what if you are enough? What if you have nothing to prove? What if the outcome of the performance has no bearing on your self-worth, on who you are, right? If you believed that you were enough, regardless of how you sing, how do I want to put this? Well, I'll just call it tight. If you believed that you were enough, regardless of how you sing and what anybody else thinks, do you think you'd perform differently? I bet $100 million you would. If you felt that you were enough and you didn't care what anybody else thought because you knew you were enough and their opinion didn't matter, do you think you'd perform differently? How would it feel to go into that performance knowing that it had no bearing on your worth, knowing that to your core, that you had nothing to prove? Do you think you would perform differently? Because this is why everyone sings a million times better when they're like alone in their car or in the shower, right? In those instances, you've got nothing to prove. How you sing is not a reflection of your worth. You're just trusting your instrument, trusting your technique, because in that private moment, you are enough for yourself. And then the voice hooks in and it's amazing, right? But guess what? Just because you get out of the shower and now you have an audience, that worth, that doesn't change. If you are enough when you're on your own, then guess what? You're also enough when someone is listening. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Then that performance doesn't bring you anxiety. Then that audition doesn't bring you, that feeling inside, because if you're enough when you're on your own, you're also enough when someone's listening. Nothing has changed internally unless you make an internal meaning of an external circumstance. Oh, okay, well now someone's listening, so my worth is now attached to what they think of me. Nuh-uh. You give your power away the moment you start thinking that you need to prove or impress. The moment you start attaching your worth to someone else's opinion or some outside circumstance. So going back to the quote, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. You've got to change the way you look at auditions and performances so that you're no longer viewing them through this lens of, I've got something to prove, I've got to impress. When you change the way that you're looking at these auditions and these performances, your auditions and your performances will change. So now, I know that it's all very good and easy for me to say, go get some self-worth, go undo patterns of years and years of patterns of lacking trust in yourself and second-guessing your talent, right? Just like snap your fingers and stop attaching your worth to your listeners. It's as if it were that easy, right? But look, I was going to say something else, but like, if you can do that, if you can just like snap your fingers and like change your mindset, like that, awesome. More power to you. But I personally, I haven't yet met somebody who can just like shift an old way of thinking like that easily. And well, this is why singers come to work with me. This is why singers do the intensive and come work in my program, because they want a system. They want a step-by-step. They want support and strategy that addresses these issues in combination with high-level technical training. They want that expert guide who can mirror back to them these issues that they cannot see themselves. And they want a community to support them to that end. You know, they want a proven strategy that has worked, that does address all of this stuff and fixes it in the moment of singing, right? Because it's like, it's great. Like so many of us do things like for self-actualization, like we'll go to therapy or we'll go do meditation practice, you know, do all kinds of like wonderful things to work on your self-worth. But trust me, the moment you open your mouth to sing, most of you just go right back into your proving pattern. And I know this because from my own experience, you know, I did all kinds of amazing work on myself with, you know, with therapists and other self-actualization programs early in my career. And it's amazing. I learned so much about myself, but none of them helped me to link like all that stuff I was learning about myself into how it shows up or doesn't show up in the moment of singing, in that moment in the audition, in that moment in the performance, right? Because you know, I would go and I would do these things. I would do meditation programs and therapy and talk and all this kind of stuff. But then like I would come back to singing, and the moment I opened my mouth, all the old BS was like right back where it started. You know, like I would be right back in the same tension patterns and holding patterns, improving patterns that I was in before, because the therapists and all these self-actualization programs don't know how to link awareness to the moment of singing. They're just not trained in that. And voice teachers who may give you tons and tons and tons of technique, they don't know how to teach singers how to tap into their awareness to catalyze all that technique so that in the moment of singing, you're not sabotaging it because of all your need to prove and impress. And so it wasn't until I learned how to link the high-level technical training to awareness in the moments of singing that all the things shifted in like a phenomenally huge way and integrated, so that I stopped sabotaging myself. I wasn't in proving mode, and my body and my instrument could just do what it was meant and trained to do. You know, but I learned it the hard way. I learned how to do that, integrating the hard way, the long way, the arduous way, you know, of piecing it together, of my own practice of 10 years of like, you know, a lot of mindful practice and self-actualization work, and 25 years of, you know, high level vocal training. Like I had to do that on my own, but you don't have to. You don't have to. That's why I'm here. That's why I do what I do with you guys, is because I don't want you to have to go through that long, arduous struggle of trying to piece it together on your own. So if you're ready, if you notice that you are in this proving pattern, and you notice that, you know, your performances and your auditions, like they're good, but they're not getting you the notice that you want. They're not making the impact that you want to get your career to that next level. And if you're ready to do that work, you've got to have a technique you can trust. And then you got to learn how to own your power, own your worth in the moment of singing, and let everything else go. And that's what I teach singers how to do. And so if you're not getting that in your training, then it's time to make a change. So what I want you to do is I'm going to put the link to book a call with me at the bottom. That's what I always do. Like if this is making sense to you and you're like, yeah, oh my God, that's so me. Like book a call with me. Don't waste a minute, because we got to understand and get clarity on what's going on in the mindset, what's going on in the technique, what's holding you back from making an impact, and look at a very specific strategy of what to do to fix it. And that's what we do on the call. We take a look at what's going on and we see what are the issues, where do you want to go? And if I think it's a fit, if I think I can help you, I will show you what that looks like. And if not, that's cool too. I'll direct you to somebody else or something else that can support you to get the outcome. So no matter what, you'll get a lot of clarity and a lot of value from the conversation. And that's the point, because at the end of the day, I don't want you guys to feel stuck anymore. If you're thinking about, wanting to get on the phone and you're a little shy, like, just do it. Like, it's free, you guys. I do this for you because I want you to know there's help out there, and I want you to know what it looks like. And if it's not a fit, that's okay. The one caveat about this call is this is not for new singers. And by new singers, I don't mean that you just started singing. I mean that you have not had one-on-one technical training before. You may have been singing for 10 years, but if you've not had that training, this call is not for you yet, because a lot of the anxiety that you feel is probably because there are just some basic tools that you need that once you get them in your technique, you will feel a hell of a lot better. So this call is really for singers who have had one-on-one technical training. You're out there, auditioning, releasing records, doing what you're doing, hustling in your career to make things happen. And you're just not seeing the results of all that at the level you want in the career. You're not making an impact at the level you want, which is why the career is not going the way you want. And we got to look at why. And this idea of needing to prove, this is a big one for a lot of singers. So use the link, book a call, and in 2 months, we could get you sorted into just a totally different reality of what you're capable of creating with your voice and your energy so that you can make an impact. All right, everybody, have a wonderful day. Bye.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning into today's episode. If you want to subscribe, click the link right over there that says subscribe. And if you want to book a breakthrough session with me, which you absolutely should do, then click the link right over here that says book a call to schedule an appointment to speak with us. I'll see you on the next episode.